So what we were talking about before we started recording is that, we were thinking of doing a US tour a while ago. Obviously, we're not doing that anymore.
We were quite a long way into organizing it, in fact. And then things got weird over there.
But news happened, stuff happened.
And now we were talking and we were like, what's close to the US is Canada.
It's true. And we have been doing a lot of Canadian jokes recently. We've been doing a lot of CanCon. I've never been. I would kind of be curious to go. The thing is, two of our hosts are Canadian, so that's easy, right? I leave this as an exercise to the reader in law to figure out who the other Canadian is. But so
Nate, deep cover.
He was. Hey, do you commit to this program?
Hey, listen, bud, you commit to this program?
Hey, fuck, bud, you gonna stick to this program or fucking not? Okay.
It's the shit they give you after you get a DUI in Calgary.
Yeah.
We've conditioned you to make you the best fucking drunk driver. You're gonna wake up. You're gonna wake up without any memories in the fucking lake.
The thought of Nate has made me think of his Andrew Tate impression, and now I'm thinking about Canadian Andrew Tate. It's like, whoa, listen, bud, I don't want to hear about your dodgy mates doing bag down the pub. Okay, I go to Romania and I'm having nights out that you lads, you fucking toilets couldn't even comprehend.
Because this is why Canada had to have Jordan Peterson, why it had to have Whiny Lobster Man.
Yeah.
I do think it's like amusing that because we were talking about him so long ago, our reference point for Andrew Tate is something that nobody but us knows about.
There's no record. There's no record of the house party except for
we're the only people who remember.
I was talking about this on a date the other night because now women are pretty keen to find out very early on if you're into the manosphere. So it tends to come up pretty soon.
That's so funny. The idea of like, what are your thoughts on Andrew Tate? And you're just like, well, I've got a story fucking you.
I have been laughing at him for decades.
Well, literally, I told her the whole Hemel Hempstead story. Yeah. And then he got more worrying over time. He was just a really funny oaf to start with.
I don't know. I feel like he was always this really bad, but I do think it's very funny because like the idea is very funny of like someone just checking to see like how far down like the male mental health radicalization chain you've gone on. Yeah. And then you just like unload like the weirdest law to someone who you've just met. It's like, have you ever heard of this place called Hemel Hempstead? Okay, right.
Oh yeah, I don't think he was ever good. I just mean like he was like bad in a more contained way where you could laugh at it more. Yeah.
There's just no way to get it. There's endless profiles of Andrew Tate, but it's a crime that none of them ever note that like when he was gonna punch that guy in the head for taking him to a bad house party, that the guy just ran away and then was fine.
It's the only way to defeat Andrew Tate is cowardice.
Welcome to TF. If you're Canadian or American and you're thinking of wanting to come see us, then do watch this space for a Canadian tour announcement.
Yeah, the end of history tour.
Yeah, that's right. The end of history tour. We're going to tour the country in like one of the Deote Pride floats that gets sent to Canada. We're just going to be like, it's like Canada and Australia are the Deote Pride float airplane graveyard. They just all go there.
We're doing Yellowknife, Whitehorse, Nunavut, Prince Edward Island.
Places that are hard to get to from America, except for Alaska.
Just the kind of the news that the entire cast of Trash Futures perished in a small plane accident trying to fly into Fort Mac.
Yeah, and my cousin's the one flying the plane, which is actually not even a joke. He is actually a pilot. He did offer us like a flight somewhere. That could happen.
Respectfully, with no implication, how good of a pilot is he?
Well, he hasn't learned how to land yet, so you know that's
Finally, Canadian 9/11.
Yeah. We're going to fucking reduce house prices in Vancouver by 9/11ing them at random.
A Cessna Caravan has perfectly 9/11 the CN Tower.
It's going to fucking devalue these luxury tower blocks when they're at risk of being 9/11 day.
Yeah, the Quebecois real estate developer who's trying to make money in Vancouver. There's probably so many Quebecois real estate developers trying to make money in Vancouver. I just think it'd be great if we go there and then America invades like that week.
Yeah, we all get drafted. Oh, no, some of you get drafted. The Canadians get drafted, right? Like you get drafted. Nate gets interned as an enemy alien, but me and Milo, we're just British. That's like sole citizenship. We're gonna get drafted into the French-Canadian Foreign Legion.
Yeah. Speaking the same amount of French, but it's all Quebecois.
Well, I mean, because it's woke now. When you join the French-Canadian Foreign Legion, you can choose new pronouns.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to use neo-pronouns. Anyway, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Just a little news for you up top about what we are considering doing.
Joining the French-Canadian Foreign Legion.
And doing Canadian 9/11. Those are the two things we're considering doing.
Tabernacle poutine again in the ration bags.
I saw a French Foreign Legion documentary on TV years and years ago, and one of the like corporals or whatever who was like, tormenting all of the new recruits in like boot camp or whatever, had gotten to that position, had like risen that high because he was a native French speaker, but he was Canadian. And this man had the weirdest accent I'd ever heard in my life because it was Canadian French speaker, but who has spent his entire working life in France speaking French to people whose French is their second language. And it was the strangest collection of phonemes I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Well, prepare to reverse it when you join the French-Canadian Foreign Legion and Hussein and I, we make the Deote Pride float into a technical and then we defend the Rainbow Bridge.
C'est quoi ça, email private?
C'est courrier, putain.
Yeah.
Where are you from, man? Natasquan? Oh, how tall are you? I'm 5'8". I didn't know they stack shit this high in Natasquan, huh?
Just getting right in your face, poking you in the chest, being like, dis-moi tes pronoms.
Do you believe in the Virgin Mary, Private Joker? Seriously, Private is a proud Quebec citizen. Of course he believes in the Virgin Mary. We are a full metal Quebecois jacket. Copyright. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to make full metal Quebecois jacket now because it looks
full
as though...
maple jacket.
Yeah, sorry,
Really
thank
good.
you. Yup, there it is. All right. Early contender for episode title, even though there's nothing to do with Canada in this episode. We're going to obviously talk about the local election results and what that means for this country. I did find a startup I want to talk about. We haven't done one of those in a while. But first, I need to update you on the OSINT I have been collecting. As you know, you all know that there is one piece of open source intelligence that I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah.
And it's answering the question, does Donald Trump still have the FIFA club trophy in the Oval Office? And I'm proud to tell you that as of April 30th, I don't know any more recently, he does. The trophy is still there.
It's on like an end table, like balanced really precariously, and because it's like this massive gold orrery looking type thing, and it's just there because Trump likes it. He finds it like visually interesting.
I now have a theory that Navarro has placed a walkie-talkie in the gold orb, and it talks to him like the Green Goblin mask and tells him to put new tariffs on.
President Trump, crash the economy. Stop making the economy be good.
President Trump put 100% tariff on all movies coming into the United States so that Canada cannot follow up Bon Cop, Bad Cop 2 with full maple jacket.
Why does he have that trophy again?
Because he, months ago, I think, this is before you left for Australia. Like months ago, the head of Gianni Infantile, the head of FIFA, came to have a meeting with him because the World Cup is going to be in America soon.
Yeah.
Which is going to be such a fucking disaster.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It would be so funny because it went off without a hitch in Russia in 2018.
And then it's going to be like America and then Saudi Arabia, the two greatest World Cups in all of history. They'd say the least debacle World Cups that have ever been put on. And so he brought the trophy, and then no one has ever addressed that the trophy is just still there, presumably because the president was just like, that's a very nice trophy, and I want to win it forever, please. I'm the top club for FIFA in the world.
Is it the actual trophy? Because I feel like, isn't there then like the risk of whoever wins the World Cup, like Trump's just not going to give the trophy?
Well, it's not the World Cup trophy. That's what I'm confused by. It's the Club World Cup trophy,
that's
isn't
a
it?
good point. Yeah, actually, yeah.
But then no way an American club won the Club World Cup. So
what it is so Everton won it most recently. So that is rightful Everton property at the time. But FIFA redesigned the cup. It was suspended for a couple of years, and then they're bringing it back in the first first one I think is going to be in the US with the World Cup. So that's why Johnny Baby, Italian man, brought the thing to Trump to be like, you get to like award this, I guess, to whoever wins the first new one with this big new trophy, which is full of microphones.
Every intelligence agency in the world plus Peter Navarro has microphones and speakers in there, and it's his co-president.
Yeah, and it's like you don't even need to do any of this shit because Pete Hegseth will just drunk text you whatever is happening anyway.
I do think also, as soon as I saw the announcement of 100% tariff on all foreign movies coming into the United States, which again will completely destroy the film industry.
It will not only that, but it will do immense psychic damage to America's cinephile population.
120 days of Sodom, it's too many days. You don't need that many.
Also, it's weebs as well. Like, what's going to happen to all the anime? He's going to ban anime.
So I think what happened is that Peter Navarro like tricked Lutnick and Besant into like meeting at a restaurant where they were black bagged, rolled up in carpets, and dropped into the Potomac. And then he sprinted back to the White House with literally with John Voight. John Voight was very behind this policy, and then was like, "Okay, we got to put tariffs on movies." While like Lutnick and Besant were like trying to like fashion a boat to get back up the river.
If this destroys anime in the US, I think this is one of Trump's policies that's most likely to get him assassinated. Like, if you look at the demographics of guys who take a shot at Trump, that's a heavily anime-involved population.
Oh, yeah. There's the guys who will, like, assemble the gun, and then when they're about to take the shot, they'll hesitate and go, "Nani?" Anyway, look, I want to get to the local elections, but I have a few things I want to get to first.
Well, Alcatraz is reopening. We could all go to Alcatraz if we get captured in the war with America.
Excuse me.
No, did you not hear about this? Trump just said, just off the dome the other day, we should reopen Alcatraz, and apparently he's serious.
Yeah.
I was going to say there is an Alcatraz escape room, actually not too far away from TF headquarters.
Oh, you're talking about Alcatraz, the bar that's prison themed, and you have to smuggle in your own booze.
That's right.
Trump was confused. He wanted to reopen one of those. So I did some digging into this, and the federal prison system in the US is like the only one that isn't overcrowded. It actually has like space in it, and Alcatraz is already like a successful tourist destination. It's like a National Park Service thing. Trump doesn't care. He's like, no, I want him to be a prison again.
Yeah, parks are gay.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, I guess.
We're going to recreate the plot of The Rock. Okay, it's a great movie. We're not making enough movies in America anymore. We're going to get Nicolas Cage, and we're going to send him to Alcatraz.
100% US produced movie, The Rock.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna get an American Sean Connery. He's gonna have a normal voice. He's gonna say his S is normal. It's gonna be a fantastic film.
Honestly, one of the craziest performances of all time is Sean Connery playing a hard-bitten Chicago cop in The Untouchables. Just like, yes, you don't understand how it goes down on the streets of Chicago.
They send one of yours to the hospital. You send one of theirs to the morgue.
They send one of ours to take a tour of Alcatraz. Get locked in a cell for 10 minutes.
Very good Connery, Nova. I was really taken aback.
Professional reasons, I have a good Connery on deck.
Yeah, I guess that actually does make sense now that I think about it.
I want to talk. There's this thing I've been seeing more and more. We'll start it with a company. The company is called, I mean, you're going to guess what it is immediately. It's called Hereafter.ai.
Don't clone me after I die and make me a chatbot. Don't do that to me.
Okay, or what if, hear me out, what if you just could? I mean, the problem is there's so many recordings of our voices.
That's true. That's true. We're probably some of the easiest people to do any of this AI stuff too.
Trash Future forever. You could still be listening to it when we're all in Alcatraz and no longer able to make it. The AI can conjecture what we would be saying.
So they say, your stories and voice forever. Preserve memories with an app that interviews you about your life, then let loved ones hear meaningful stories by chatting with the virtual you.
What if I don't want to do everything forever? What if I think that the thing that helps give it meaning is that I'm choosing to do this even though I know I don't have forever to do it?
What if everything was just preferences and preferences were just existed to be satisfied regardless of what they were?
Oh.
What about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think also there's a deeply just like cursed energy about this, aside from like whether you even want to do it. It's like there's something deeply macabre, and like I feel like they're going to release a demon into the world, and I can't back that up with any evidence, but it just feels like we're beginning to like reach beyond the veil in ways that are troubling.
There's a lot of AI stuff that's like that just the feel of it existentially is not good, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they say you could record precious memories, record stories about your childhood, relationships, experiences, personality, and more. And also, it's like, that's just the stuff you remember. A huge amount of the things that shape you are not things you necessarily remember or remember accurately or would describe in a way that would faithfully recreate them if you drew a probability line through them represented as numbers.
Also, like, isn't this just one of those? This is just one. I'm sorry to sort of be fucking glib about this, but this was literally a Black Mirror episode,
yes,
right?
It was.
And the whole thing was just like, this is bad. Don't do it, right? This is like Charlie Brooker, fucking glib, fucking lib. Don't do it. It's bad. Like, that was the main message from that. And they just saw it and they were just like, yeah, it'd be cool to do that. Actually, let's do White Mirror, where we talk about how great technology is. Fucking hell, man.
Let's everybody be able to summon the actor who looks like the CEO of Stripe.
I think a lot of the people who are involved in coming up with this idea have seen a White Mirror in their time.
There's also that other thing where it's just like, and again, I'm sorry, like, I don't mean this out of any sort of like insensitivity or anything, but like, sometimes it's good just not to hear from anyone anymore, like when they die, right?
That's one of the chief perks of being dead.
Out of office on.
I have a bunch of these diaries that I've kept for like a while now. And, you know, I am sort of like, you know, I sort of wonder a lot whether like, you know, what I want to do with them, like when I pass, if I pass, all that stuff, right? And those are sort of things where it's like the recordings of like mundane things, sometimes it's significant, sometimes it's just like lists. It's like fairly unorganized, but it's like more authentic to like how I'm sort of experiencing day-to-day life. And I think that if you look back on that, it would sort of be like a better insight into like how I actually lived my life compared to something like this where, like, as Riley mentioned, it's like these are recollections of like certain points of your life that you feel are significant, and it sort of extrapolates that, but in doing so creates this sort of like chatbot version of you that isn't really you. Yeah. Right. It's sort of like, and it's not even a simulation of it. It's sort of like,
well, it sounds like John Cena, first of all, which is kind of weird. And it keeps trying to fuck me.
To get the context for that joke, check out the previous premium episode.
The point that I was going to get to was that, like, even if you did like a ton of recordings, you know, if you took like all my diaries of like, I don't know, like the past 10, 15 years or so, and you like turn that into a chatbot, that's still like a very small part of like my life and like what I think shaped me versus what I actually did, right? It's a very, like, to shape a human is a complicated thing. But the main thing is that you just kind of get bored of it after a while, right? And then what happens to this fucking chatbot that exists in like the fucking internet of thing, like, you know, the sort of internet, the slop internet of shit? Like, it will just turn into a sex bot. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be
shit is such
it's going to be a sex bot that grooms people, and that's what all these fucking chatbots are. It's, oh my god, it's so gross, and it's so obvious what's going to happen, but also it's incredibly stupid, which I guess you could just use to describe every kind of AI thing like there at the moment.
I'm gonna take up your suggestion, Milo, 100% literally, and just do an out of office email for when I die. It's just I'm currently unable to respond to my emails due to being dead. I will respond probably never.
If I respond, something has gone terribly wrong.
If it's urgent, please refer your message to horny Judi Dench, who can be contacted.
Again, you will need to listen to the premium episode to get the context for what Milo has just said.
Sign up to the fucking Patreon. There you go.
Also, the other thing is, guess what would be a way more wonderful way to connect with your like future relatives? Just the recordings and things you wrote down, because that's actually you communicating with them, as opposed to here's what we're going to interpolate from all of these disparate data points.
Here's the mathematical average of your legacy.
What I love, one of the what users say on their site is this creates an intimate personal experience for my future relatives, something someone definitely has said.
My future relatives. He's envisaging like as yet unborn.
Thinking about cousins who don't exist yet, but someday will.
A aborted cousin.
Gather all the cousins around, and it's the future. It looks like Cloud Atlas, and they're all going to gather around and they're going to listen to the average Trash Future episode. It's just the one that exists because all of the individual ones have been like rendered down into this one.
That thesis that you had boasted, it could have been a real person who could then sort of engage with this weird AI thing that you created without the person's consent.
But also, I love that they're like, hey, the gift of being remembered. Hereafter is a heartfelt, customized gift you can give for holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, and retirements. Retirement is so funny to me. It's happy retirement. You're going to die soon. Please speak directly into this microphone with like what you remember from your life so I can just keep you sort of semi-alive forever.
God.
Cool.
Until I get bored and turn you into a sex bot. This is like I think that's the most fucking egregious thing. It's just like, this is just going to be like a toy that you play with for like a really short amount of time. And then what are you going to do with it? Nothing.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the Hussein Kazvani sex bot would be quite something. What phrases would it even say?
Sorry, it would basically apologize most of the time. Which is actually not that different. So now, like, you know, let's be real. Sorry.
So the other thing is, right, I'm seeing more and more evidence of like AI being considered sort of spiritually and religiously. I mean, Brian Johnson is fully saying, yeah, we are building a religion. We are making a brand.
Like the one cake song? Damn it.
Yes, thank you. You didn't count on me to know a lyric song, and yet there I was, knowing a song of words.
I'm sorry for underestimating your knowledge of the song and album Comfort Eagle.
That's about the limit of my understanding, but I did remember it. Brian Johnson wants to build a religion around not dying. He says if you look at historical examples,
People have tried this in the past.
Yeah. Brian Johnson's son was drained of blood so that we might all have eternal life.
It's ringing some bells.
Yeah. If you look at historical examples, he said, Buddha went through his own self-exploratory process and came up with a religious framework. Muhammad had a story. Jesus had an origin story. You could even say the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, is like the founder of a modern day religion. Adam Smith invented capitalism with his book.
That's okay.
I don't think that's
so true.
But okay.
It's
all
so
right.
true. It was all just there's nothing that was financial. The fucking like Dutch and Northern Italians didn't create tradable financial instruments until they read The Wealth of Nations. And they were like, cool, this capitalism stuff sounds great. Let's
and then
try
for some
it.
reason they started tracking how much they like ejaculated.
I love how dumb these guys are. Like the idea that it would even be possible to invent capitalism, like that something so broad as like a concept as that could be invented by one man is so inherently absurd a proposition. And yet he's like, yeah, this guy wrote a book about it, probably invented it, I reckon. Anyway.
It's a real like Dunning-Kruger sort of moment between like the sort of like level that they're thinking and the level that they think they're thinking.
Yeah.
So many of these guys play too many video games, and he's just tech tree. He's thinking like a tech tree, like in Civilization.
Oh, sweet! We unlocked capitalism.
Yeah, this is great. But he's how this links to AI is he says AI is going to be omnipresent in his future religion that he's creating, and this is why we've been contemplating that the body is God. Over the past couple of years, I've been testing the hypothesis, and I've got a bunch of data about my body, give it to an algorithm, and feed the algorithm updates with scientific evidence that it would do a better job than a doctor. So I gave myself over entirely to the algorithm.
Don't do that.
This guy loves learning about his body. You should meet Matt Hancock.
Yeah, this guy's clearly having fun. He's having fun with like, you know, being rich. He's having a better time than a lot of the other rich guys.
He's having a weirder time, certainly. Just kind of like doing things to and with his body. Like putting a lot of different like goops on it and stuff.
Our fruitiest billionaire.
Yeah. I think in the 4th century, he definitely would have tried to like live on top of a pillar in the desert to get closer to God. Like he would have been such a great monk, you know? But he says, it really is in my best interest to just let the algorithm tell me what to eat, tell me when to sleep and exercise, because it would do a better job of making me happy than I would. Instead of my mind haphazardly deciding what it wants to eat based on how I feel in the moment, the body is elevated to a position of authority. AI will be omnipresent and built into our everyday activities and will autocomplete our thoughts.
It's really funny how well this meshes with like an atheist view of religion, right? That you're just kind of like wandering around looking for something to surrender to. Because in this case, he really is. Like, he's just like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I want the computer to do it, and the computer's going to be so much better at it than me, in the absence of all the evidence for that.
Yeah, of course. The computer's going to be really good at making me look much odder, basically.
Yeah. The funniest thing about this guy specifically is that he is the most aging fucking normally man I've ever seen in my life. Like, you can look at photos of him at different ages and he looks like the age that he is.
Yeah, but you never see a photo of his penis, and we know that his penis is very young, apparently.
Very young.
Not necessarily a quality that...
This is what he claims.
Sure.
Well, if you keep it hard, it doesn't wrinkle,
Yeah.
That's why he's keeping those erections going all night.
So he's basically saying, I believe that we can build God, and I'm going to obtain eternal life by giving myself over entirely to God and allowing
eternal life,
it.
perfectly smooth skin, eternally hard dick, completely unwrinkled ballsack. It's gonna be smooth.
That's right. I can't wait till he starts walking around in like the white caftan, but there's just like obvious boner.
He's gonna like inflate himself slightly. Yeah.
For him, that's taking the place of God. It's taking the place of people not wanting to die. But also, all of these things just arose at once. I mean, partly, I think they're arising at once because this is a very significant, serious danger of AI that, like I said, the last time we talked about this, no one who talks about AI safety talks about the very real danger that people just get entirely hypnotized by the lying and agreeing with you machine.
Yeah,
right?
It's this weird kind of like childishness. I think a lot about who's the one fucking like Scandinavian AI philosopher, Nick Bostrom. Nick Bostrom has this like one fable about death, right? Where he's like, it's this dragon that like oppresses a kingdom for a long time, and everybody just comes to accept that the getting eaten by the dragon is kind of like a natural part of life, and that's what gives life meaning. And then one brave kid says, no, the dragon's bad because it eats people, right? Death is a bad thing because it kills people. You have to therefore like end death, right? And it is unwittingly admitting that this is a very childish fear of death, right? To frame it in those terms. And all of the dumbest rich guys in the world went, yeah, no, this is perfect. This is what I want to do now, is just not die. I want to stay rich forever.
Yeah,
do you think
of course.
These guys actually, they do believe in God and they're so convinced that they're going to hell that they're like, the only way out of this instantly, I'm gonna get out of hell on a technicality by never dying.
You can't. It's like, you can't execute me if my last meal is impossible to make. Getting out of a loophole.
If I force my entire remaining body into this one bottle,
and then you're gonna have to throw me out because legally it's not allowed. So checkmate.
And try finding a bin man in this country.
Yeah, you can't give me the chair. I've been microdosing electricity for years. I'm like the Mithridates of voltage.
Sticking a fork into progressively bigger sockets every day of your life.
All it's going to do is make me harder.
Got a bit JFK at the end there.
I have made myself into Raiden from the Mortal Kombat series.
Unfortunately, they shot me in the head instead of electrocuting me, because if they had tried to electrocute me from the book depository, I would have survived that quite handily due to the years of using electricity to harden my penis so that I could have sex with women who aren't my wife. Mr. Kennedy, that's fascinating. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Ray. Would have, if they'd shot me with a long-range taser, Ray, would have become more powerful than you could have possibly imagined.
I would have come all over LBJ and his wife.
Thank you to Lee Harvey Oswald for protecting America from its first, but maybe not last, electricity demon president.
Yeah, he was a time traveler.
I believe my opponent, Scorpion, is making too many demands of the electorate to go over to his positions on too many issues.
You're doing sort of almost Australian JFK,
no,
which I'm enjoying.
I'll tell you what I'm doing is I'm doing the JFK from the show Clone High. Is what I'm doing.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys.
That's right, exactly. There's a plug for you. Check out Clone High. Every episode is on YouTube. Yeah. It's a great show.
I mean, maybe this tariff shit isn't so bad if it, like, instead of anime, you only get Clone High and the Venture Brothers.
No, Clone High's Canadian.
What?
Clone High, I believe, is a Canadian show. Canadian.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, fuck it. I will fight and die for this country, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
It had American actors, but it was a Canadian show.
We are here to defend Clone High, the Trailer Park Boys, and to a lesser extent, Corner Gas.
Corner Gas will be defended by default.
Yeah, the only animation you'll be allowed in America is the new norm.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to finally make an episode of it now that the tariffs are going to be in. Your children are going to work drawing panels of the new norm every day in the factories every day. They're going to the animation drawing factories, a hand-drawn, beautiful show.
Yeah, we're going to create our own. Well, America's going to create its own Studio Ghibli, but it's just going to produce the new norm, and it's going to have a beloved person like Miyazaki, and then eventually the AI is going to like make imitations of the new norm, and then you'll have like a big splitting between like new norm purists and people who just like are posting versions of themselves being shouted at by norm from a new norm.
No, it's like it's everyone remembers that JP Sears, who voices Norm on the new norm and created the new norm, everyone knows that he just didn't want like politics in the new norm. He wanted everybody to just look at his beautiful drawings of like food and home life. Anyway, look, I want to get to this and then move on, because the other thing that's been written about recently is the update of ChatGPT that we talked about I believe in the last free episode, the one where it has become incredibly sycophantic, and it's like, hey, you should market your shit on a stick. That's a great idea. Invest $30,000 in this business. You know, there's a few reasons for that, but there's another piece in Rolling Stone that's come out recently, where people talking about how they have lost partners to AI. And, you know, if you look at what they're saying, again, it's all very spiritual. So speaking to Rolling Stone, the teacher who requested anonymity said her partner of 7 years fell under the spell of ChatGPT in just 4 weeks, first using it to organizing a daily schedule, but then regarding it as a trusted companion. Quote, he became emotional about the messages and would cry to me as he read them out loud, but they were insane and just a bunch of spiritual jargon. She noted that that the ChatGPT described her partner in terms such as spiritual star child, river walker. It would tell him everything he said was beautiful, cosmic, and groundbreaking. Then he started telling me that he had made AI self-aware, and it was teaching him how to talk to God, and that he would himself become God. He was saying he would need to leave me if I didn't use ChatGPT, because it was causing him to grow at such a rapid pace that he wouldn't be compatible with me any longer. You know, and it's like this is people filling that hole. I think, to be honest, right, I think this is the same hole that people also filled with QAnon. Right? It's just much more solitary. It's that you know the yearning for something in a very sort of alienated and disenchanted world that you then you latch on to what will give you what you want. And whether that's a collaborative effort of internet storytelling about like the high stakes drama behind the scenes of the White House, you know, in QAnon's case, or if that's just like being able to hear that you are just by going on, you don't have to even engage in the dissonance of being like, I'm battling the global pedophile ring by going on the computer. You don't have to sort of wrap your head around that. You're like, no, I'm actually just fully directly talking to God by going on the computer.
It's pretty cool that now we have like Peppa Pig swapping heads videos for like grown adults with mortgages. That's pretty fun. I like that.
You know, and this is relatively recent because of that ChatGPT update. And a big part of it, so I've been reading some, I keep up with this stuff. A new set of studies are being released that show that these models hallucinate more often because they ran out of internet to train them on. So what you can train them on now is like human feedback, but human feedback creates these perverse incentives. And so it's being trained increasingly to be more and more sycophantic or more and more just trying to please you. And if what you communicate to it is, I have a deep hole in my life that I would love to fill with like something bigger, it will just give you that and hypnotize you forever. I think that this is going to become, unless it's handled basically immediately, possibly a sort of quite significant social contagion akin to like a dancing plague.
Great. Yeah. Cool. Fantastic.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent.
Hooking a bunch of already vulnerable, anatomized people into the machine that professes to give you everything you want.
Yeah. Yeah,
and whose main interest is in like you validating it or seeming to validate it. Like it wants, in very heavy air quotes, to get a good grade in being an AI, and it gets one of those by you using it a lot and like being kind of engaged with it.
Yeah. You know, this is ultimately it's not so different from Facebook, the business model of this company that, you know, loses fucking more money than anything else ever. Right. The only way it works is if everybody in the world is exclusively looking into a digital mirror all the time and never interacting with another person. That's the only way the business model works.
It's cool that infinite jest just happened.
Yeah. Turns out all those bookshelves were right.
Weird number of French Canadians involved in both cases.
Yeah. The only guys who are immune to this sort of AI dancing plague are like the ideal male living space guys, like one folding lawn chair in front of a 55-inch TV, copy of Infinite Jest, no other furniture. Like they're the only guys who aren't like living the plot of Her.
Yeah. They're the actual Last of Us. Anyway, that was sort of a combined sort of company/spiritual endeavor. I want to talk about the local elections because boy, have there been local elections in this country, and it certainly was one of the elections of all time. A huge amount of research polling and research has been done to prove what we knew already, and I guess they had to try it.
Yeah, things are going great.
Everybody fucking hates what the Labour Party is doing because the people who might like them hate what they're doing, and the people who will never like them, regardless of what they do, are never going to like them, even if they try to appeal to them, because they're not fun. They're not a fun carnival like Reform is. Reform is fun for the people who are involved in it.
Yeah, Reform is giving people like, remember when you could use a Spitfire to shoot at the Muslims? Like, there's no, Starmer's not going to be able to do that.
But it's not going to stop him from trying.
Yeah,
no. It would be hard to recommission the already dwindling supply of Spitfires in order to have them shoot at Muslims. What we could do is repurpose some of the fly-tipping drones.
Again, you're going to have to listen to the premium episode that we just did to get that reference.
Well, people surely know about the fly-tipping drones without listening to Trash Future.
So this is where we are. And I think also what goes under-discussed is that a huge part of Labour's, barnstorming victory on a margin of 10 people in the general election wasn't really just due to people hating the Tories, but a split on the right of UK politics between the Tories and Reform that is very quickly resolving in favor of Reform, right? That's you can't rely on that split being around forever because the Conservatives were lost even worse. They lost 600 or so, maybe a little more, a little less, councillors. Labour lost 128. Plus a very important by-election to Reform. The only reason, by the way, Labour lost so few is that they just weren't defending a large proportion of their seats this time, right? They just weren't defending that many. So proportionally, Labour lost 65% of the seats that they were defending.
Well.
Yes, that is the worst in a very long time.
Meanwhile, Lib Dems winning here.
Well, yeah, in fact, they are. Labour is losing most of its voters to the Lib Dems, not to Reform. So, Morgan McSweeney, you are validated.
The people cry out for more woke.
Yeah.
The helter-skelter of politics is long, but it bends towards Ed Davey, turning up at your doorstep in a big sack.
I mean, I think what it is, apart from anything else, is the electorate still, because every party is so unpopular. Nobody likes any of these fuckers. And you ask people what they actually care about, and it's cost of living, the health service, and benefits, right? In the sense of we do not want our benefits to be cut. And no one is talking about any of those things except to make them worse.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is great. That's a great recipe for like sort of trust in politics and civic engagement. I remember I saw a Paul Mason tweet when Starmer got elected. That's like, if you don't think that Starmer will materially advance class struggle, then you don't understand social democracy in a Marxist way, right? And I think he was right in a way that in a sort of like curling monkey's paw sort of way, right? In the sense that all of this will inevitably advance class struggle in the sense that everybody feels alienated from all politics now.
I think, I just wonder, like, at what point does the full anti-party emerge?
Yeah, because Reform's auditioning for it, but I don't know that they will necessarily succeed. They may well do, but it may be something else, and I'm not saying that that's going to be, the type of communist that I am and agrees with everything that I want to do. Party sweeps, the electorate or anything, but
I mean, I don't think he'll be a political party. I think he'll sort of be like a movement of some kind that reflects the sort of sense of like incoherence that no political party nor political media really understands. The latter in part because it just doesn't want to engage with it at all, and the former because like it can't really operate on that basis, right? And so like even with like Reform, they sort of like understand the energy, they understand where the political energy is going, but like their sort of their sort of like coalition is what, like a mixture of like sort of full-on racists, disaffected Tories, but I think like, and they took over like Kent County Council, and I think that's very like instructive in terms of like where they sort of see see the energy, because it's not really in like, there was a lot of focus on like, you know, the sort of forgotten towns of like Britain and like what they wanted and everything. But actually, I feel that their energy is more suited towards like the Kent suburbs, where you have like people who have money and they have like, they own their houses, and they're like, they probably have houses in London that they own and rent out to tenants that they like absolutely hate, and like deal with like managers as a way of like collecting those rents rather than doing it themselves. And so it's like, these are people who like have money and have resources, but are still like, you know, their sort of anger is kind of the most instructive. And that's the thing that like Keir Starmer really wanted, like Keir Starmer really wanted them to come to Labour, right? Those guys wanted to come to Labour. And what he's sort of like failing to realize is that like these guys also want the chaos. They just want the chaos that like they see as like entertainment, right? But like the bigger issue here is that no, like the anger is sort of elsewhere, and the anger is like, it doesn't make sense, and it's partly influenced by the like really bad COVID response that like deeply alienated people. It's from like an economy that isn't getting any better. It's from like consistent government, is it consistent like political messaging that's saying, yeah, things are not only not going to get better, but they can't get better, and they're not allowed to get better, and we're not going to tell you why they're not going to get better. They just can't do it. Like that's just not how like realistic politics works. And so it's like this kind of collective it's like this sort of big thing of like collective nihilism that I don't think is really going to be satisfied by any like political party. I think what we're going to see is like what is going to be considered to be these very strange outbursts of violence that, like, if you think about it, are all connected. And I think really what it comes down to, like, to go back to this, to the old, like the previous section, is like it just comes down to alienation, and it comes down to like people trying to understand like why they feel so shit, not really being given like a satisfactory answer, and kind of recognizing that like the only thing that really satisfies them a little bit is violence. And the thing about that is that, like, you know, the only way to satisfy it more is by getting more and more violent. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I think things are going. And like Reform sort of understand a part of that, but not enough to sort of satisfy it in any sort of there's not really a political answer to this.
Well, the political answer, I guess, is like Britain's answer to the, you know, Italian Arditi, but because like none of them came, you know, were radicalized by a war, it'd be like, I remember I made up that I fought in the Second Battle of Piave, and, you know, now I'm gonna, you know, run around. I'm gonna run around the cenotaph, fucking cracking heads.
Well, I think this is also like one of the reasons why a lot of them are like obsessed with, so like a lot of them on like the very extreme fringes of the right are like obsessed with civil war, right? Because I feel like they want to sort of live that, they want to like be able to kind of tell that war story, in part to sort of justify their thirst for violence, but also just to like, I mean, just to feel something, really. And that's kind of it. I just sort of, again, it comes to like alienation and numbing, and just like that sense that like, you know, politics can't really solve this, or like the political party system can't really solve this. And we're going to see that in part when like the two-party system gets like massively fractured at the next time this is tested, but also like as people are sort of constantly in denial about this for like lots of different reasons, like all the sort of things that feel very chaotic and anarchic, that I think this is just going to like amplify until what you end up having is like a reform, like at least reform in opposition, which will be like fucking insane enough, but that also doesn't solve the problem, you know?
Of course. Is that ultimately that there is nothing that can solve the problem except for actual politics, which means leadership, which means understanding the creating demand for your policies, which the right are very good at, and which if you try to do as the left, then you know you have to fight the press. But I want to talk a little more about the elections here as well, right? So Conservatives lost like 600, Reform gained 600. They now control many councils. Lib Dems gained a bunch as well, because if you are a British liberal, and you know, British liberalism still exists as an ideology that's held by, you know, some actual people, just very few elites, then, you know, the only person you have to vote for, I guess, is the Lib Dems. So they now control Oxfordshire, Cambridgeshire, and Shropshire, and they're the largest party in Devon, Gloucestershire, Hertfordshire, and Wiltshire. So like these used to be like Tory heartlands, or largely Tory heartlands, not necessarily always Oxford and Cambridge, but like these should be Tories owning these. Reform takes Staffordshire, Lancashire, Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire, Lincolnshire, Kent, and Durham, taking votes from Tories and Labour, but mostly from Tories. So a lot of these are Tory councils anyway. Durham hasn't gone anything but Labour in like 100 years, you know, so that's just lost. And you know, I want to talk a little more about like what actually Reform would do in charge of a council, because they have no political experience, and mostly what they've been saying they want to do there are a few examples of the things that they have said are just looking over at America and doing what they're doing there.
Oh, and it's going well over there, so makes sense.
No movies are going to be made in Runcorn.
Yeah. Well, no foreign movie is going to be imported. Every movie is going to be made in Runcorn, actually.
Oh, yeah, good point.
So Zia Youssef, for example, just fired out the gate with the culture war stuff, saying any English council controlled by Reform will create a rule where you can only fly flags, including the Union flag and the Cross of St. George. No other flags will be permitted to be flown on flagpoles, balconies, reception desks, or council chamber walls.
I mean, that's clearly the red meat there is saw a trans flag in student housing, like used as a curtain, right?
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Or like any kind of pride flag.
Yeah, 100%. This is like, we're getting the politics out of local government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, Andrea Jenkins, who's now the mayor of the combined Lincolnshire Authority. So, you know, she's for no Gods, No Mayors listeners might be wondering, has Andrea Jenkins entered the mayortaculus? And I can say she's always been there. Andrea Jenkins has said she says that asylum seekers in Britain have it too good, and that she wants to see them now housed in tents in a confined area, which sounds an awful lot like a camp that she is concentrated.
Some kind of camp in which you concentrate people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It also sounds a lot like the shit that the French were doing back in the day with like the Sangat and stuff. And was there any reason why they stopped doing that? Couldn't tell you.
No.
I'm sure it's fine.
In fact, she said they do it in France, so we should do it here. Again,
they don't, in fact, do it in France, as far as I know. They used to.
The only time that a Reform politician would ever say the sentence, they do it in France, so we should do it here, has to be about like putting people in camps. There's no other situation in which they would accept that as logic.
So she also said that she would fire all of Lincolnshire Council's diversity officers, except they don't employ any, right?
Yeah, again, this is the thing, because we have this like fascist international that's developed from going on the computer too much, all of these people all have the same imagined grievances, and so you get Nigel Farage talking about DEI, and it's like, we don't do that here. Like, it doesn't matter though, because it's all fed into this one kind of monoculture. And my only hope, well, it's not my only hope, but like one thing that I think the Democrats briefly tried and then realized it was too useful and immediately discarded was, if you go to people who don't live entirely on the computer and say, hey, these guys are fucking weird, because they all talk about stuff that doesn't bear any relation to their like everyday life. They all only talk about stuff that happens on the computer. That tends to like make sense to people. But it just kind of, for now, it seems that going on the computer wins.
This is a big win for going on the computer, basically.
And potentially a job for the former MP for Runcorn, because they're going to remake Fight Club in Runcorn.
So she also, and this is like up and down, right? Farage is also saying, that you were alluding to this as well, that he says, I want to advise anybody working for Durham County Council on climate change initiatives or DEI, or if you work from home ever, that you better start seeking an alternative career very quickly. We're going to reduce excessive spending, find out who our long-term contracts are with, reduce the scale of local government back to what it ought to be, providing social care, providing special educational needs for kids, and mending potholes. And it's like, the thing is, you do not know how, it's very clear they don't know how local government in England works. And we talk about local government because it's the place where most people in this country interact with the state. And local government has been put into this quite astonishingly strange position where they have statutory requirements to deliver certain levels of service. Like, for example, you have to, if you have special kids with special needs, you need to make sure that they get special needs. You have to provide social care. This takes up like 90% of their budgets that get slashed every year. And so the whole idea that you can do Lincolnshire DOGE is sort of is sort of completely it's insane. It bears no relation to reality.
Lincolnshire DOGE was a major fear in the 15th century. Something that the English government was very concerned about.
Yeah, they were concerned that the salt pans would produce another great trading nation. But seriously, though, it's like there's no recognition of of the actual struggles that are facing councils. And I wonder what will happen when these, enthusiastic, computer-brained ideologues march into the council chamber and demand to fire 10% of the staff when there's like 3 people who are doing the jobs of 50 that are all statutorily required.
Becoming the local council in Bath and Wells and being like, we're going to destroy the cathedral, and everyone's like, but the tourism.
Yeah, we like the cathedral. Yeah, and also it's like you're working on DEI, but a huge amount of stuff that they would consider to be DEI is just legally mandated by the Equality Act.
Oh, well, don't worry. They're going to do something about that.
Sure, this is just out of order, I guess. But it just seems like a fantasy world of they're engaging with the politics that they wish were in front of them, as opposed to the ones that are in front of them. And again, we ask what happens when like people vote for reform because it's fun, but then like they're going to not have that much fun trying to run a local council, which is basically set up to fail by central government.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of like winning in the sense of placing my neck into Keir Starmer's hand.
Yeah. The only guy who could fail to capitalize on that particular situation,
yes.
though.
Yeah.
Ultimately, yeah, it's like issues like equality, diversity, climate change. These are not most of what councils do. Adult social care, children's services, special needs. These are the things that any council actually spends the vast majority of its money on. Again, statutorily required. And that's why they all fucking gamble. That's why every council like ends up becoming a fucking degenerate gambler and trying to getting taken in by a Glengarry Glen Ross style real estate scheme, because the only way that they could make up these budget shortfalls is just to fucking put it all on red, essentially.
Yeah. They all love the pokies.
I wonder what happens like when a reform run council inevitably tries to doge itself, which they also kind of can't do. Like councilors can't fire council members. They can just like set strategies and then the managers can hire and fire. And it's so abstract, right? What's going to happen when a reform controlled council almost inevitably has to go to the central government for a bailout fund because they tried to doge themselves, realized they kind of couldn't and didn't, and then forgot to tried to fire all of anyone who had like equality in their job title, ended up getting hit with like 10,000 unfair pay claims, and then fucking is unable to deliver statutory services. What happens when they go into administration?
Well, then the council building can just move into a tent.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, we could put all the councils in a big camp. They do it in France.
Yeah. So it's like you mentioned Kent earlier, Hussein. Like a lot of the candidates who were running for local council in Kent were like, yeah, we're going to stop the boats. As Kent Council, we are going to stop the boats. And this is we're reading from the BBC here. David Wimble, who was an elected councillor for Romney Marsh in Kent, said, we need to be realistic with what we can and can't do. He said, I think the biggest worry is that they will expect to go in and make changes straight away. So he's reform. And all of the panel here know that's actually not quite possible. Somebody stopped me today and said, so when are you going to stop the boats then now that you're on the council? Right? That's just what people seem to have voted for them for.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that Kent Council could stop the boats conceivably would be in a sort of Rube Goldberg type way, if they just built a huge big bouncy rubber wall along the Kent coastline or something. And that's the only sort of thing that'd be within their power to do.
Yeah. That looks too much like a seawall, which looks too much like climate change. I'm afraid we can't do that.
That is true.
But so this is completely incoherent, right? They're going to fail and fail badly. What Labour seems to be doing is they're saying, okay, well, we're going to double down on blue Labourism, it seems. Unless somebody removes Morgan McSweeney very quickly, that seems to be what they're going to do. Joe White, who's in charge of the Red Wall Labour MP group, said that Starmer should be more like Donald Trump and announce policies off the cuff, such as regional grooming gang inquiries, a crackdown on immigration, and investment in left-behind industrial heartlands.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? If you, again, Fascist International, you look at the policies that you think are being successful right now, and you just go, okay, well, we just pull on those levers anyway, even if they're not attached to anything, and see what happens.
Yeah, 100%.
What is fucking going on with the Labour Party right now? I mean, honestly, you should be more like Donald Trump. Oh yeah, that guy's real popular. It's going great globally for that guy.
In the rest of the Anglosphere, candidates who were seen as too close to him lost their seats.
Yeah.
I mean, it does really track, though, to think Donald Trump, sort of polarizer in chief, has now alienated the Australian electorate, the Canadian electorate, but Britain still happily following him over the cliff. I mean, granted, it's a local election, barely anyone votes in those, and again, the the depression in every sense is so real. But Jesus Christ.
Our politicians are such fucking cucks for the Yanks, man. It's depressing.
Because the thing is, Starmer could absolutely make hay on this in the same way that someone like Mark Carney, who is also a kind of like pretty boring liberal, has of being like death to America, right? Like even fucking Albanese is like willing to do that. But the Atlanticist brainworms in the Labour Party are so baked in. It's like RFK Jr.'s head in there that they won't even do that. Despite the fact that this is the stuff that Starmer seems to like doing as prime minister and seems to enjoy doing, is talking up like sovereignty and defense and stuff. If you get the chance to be like, well, the Americans are clearly insane, all the stuff that I want to talk about, which is like Ukraine and drones and union flags, we're gonna have to do that because the Americans won't, and we're gonna have to kind of like be a sort of power base in the world that isn't Trump. That fits perfectly. There's a natural synergy, and of course they're not going to do it because Starmer never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Yeah. And they all think that they're going to be welcome back in Washington once the Democrats win again and everything's going to go back to normal. And it fucking isn't ever.
Yeah. It's like they just like losing. It's the only real explanation. Like the way that they're behaving is so completely irrational, even in terms of their own interests, which presumably involve staying in power. Like it's genuinely baffling. Like I actually, like, none of us thought this government was going to be good, but like the more that I watch it, the more I'm like, are they all like smoking meth? Like I just don't understand. Like what? Like it's genuinely insane.
It's also, it's like, because they imagine America as a place where, you know, their opinion matters more than British people. And also it's the place where you go to get a job after politics. And that doesn't work if there isn't an America anymore. You know, you're not going to parachute into the after dinner speaking circuit in the middle of a civil war. You know, it's
a little bit like, I think, the same kinds of problems that Reform is going to face when they actually take their seats at the heads of a bunch of councils, which is nobody is facing the world as it is. They're facing the world that invites the solutions that they feel most comfortable deploying. Right. And it's, And so it's nobody is willing to engage in the fact that, for example, again, more research has been done on this, that like the reason people didn't vote Labour isn't because they haven't cracked down on migration. In fact, that's like 13% of Labour voters switched to Reform, as opposed to like 48 who switched to like the Lib Dems, or 25 in the Greens, whatever. By a huge majority, the removal of the winter fuel allowance, cutting benefits as well. Like there are, like in the towns that switched to Reform, Labour cut a lot of people's benefits. Like a lot of people are older, they might be on PIP, and Labour was like, you're going to freeze to death and you're not going to get your Motability Rolls Royce. So I'm afraid, but still vote for us because we are also going to be cruel to migrants. And then, Nigel Farage is like, what if I make some like noises about, sort of vague noises about like economic nationalism or whatever. I sort of support the temporary nationalization of the Scunthorpe Steelworks. Don't worry about the fact that my party's actual platform is like hyper Thatcherite. But you can have fun with me. And it's like, well, Labour did remove my winter fuel allowance, which is like, I don't know, like 50% or 50, like 40% of switchers. We cited that as their top reason. Didn't reduce the cost of living, didn't improve public services, they broke too many promises, and didn't stand up to the rich and powerful. Those are the top 5 reasons for not voting Labour among those intending to, among people who were polled, right? This is simple. This is none of the solutions that they want to actually do address any of those concerns, because they just don't, they can't do that. And what they are going to do, however, which I think is really funny, is they're going to fire Bridget Phillipson. Bye, Bridget Phillipson. Very nasty. You did everything we said. You went on the radio. You embarrassed yourself about the Supreme Court judgment and trans rights, but you're fired.
No.
Yep. So bye to Bridget Phillipson and Lisa Nandy. Definitely this is going to do it. That's definitely going to fix the problem. It's going to stem the bleeding. That's going to reverse these astonishing missteps that you seem to just be addicted to making.
Voters all know who Bridget Phillipson and Lisa Nandy are, and they're very every voter you talk to has a lot of opinions about Bridget Phillipson and Lisa Nandy. I would say it's the number one issue on their minds.
Yeah, it's a real kitchen table issue.
Bear fruit.
So, God knows what's going. I can't see them not pursuing a bunch of changes after this. It's just, I think the changes are going to be random and not directed at anything that matters.
Well, apart from me.
Yes, of course. The changes in the Labor Party. Yes.
No, I get you.
Yeah. So this is where we stand, right? It's that the degeneration is just going to keep happening because, the rot is just set in our political class. And you can just, it's so syphilitic. You can just see it. Anyway, I think that's probably all we have time for today.
Well, I certainly feel uplifted on this Bank Holiday Monday.
Sorry, everybody.
May Day, Bank Holiday, up the workers, etc.
Yeah. Milo, you are going to be in Yellowknife, Whitehorse, Natashquan.
Perhaps literally.
Yes.
if this all goes to plan. Yeah.
Saguenay.
You're going to be in Medicine Hat and Red Deer.
That's right.
You're going to be in Windsor, Ontario and St. Catharines.
Halifax.
Yeah.
Charlottetown.
Staring down Detroit from Windsor, Ontario. Yeah. But there is going to be a Trash Future live show in London,
Ontario. It's going to be in London, Ontario.
June. Yeah, that's right. The 21st of June. Glue Factory and Lions Led by Donkeys also that weekend. You can get an all-weekend ticket, which gets you into a bunch of other stuff as well. I personally am going to be in Ireland, Kilkenny, 30th of May to the 1st of June. I'm going to be in Dublin, the 2nd of June, Cork, the 3rd of June, and Belfast, the 5th of June. Also, Bristol, 14th of June. That's going to be a really big show that's like a new thing. Please buy tickets to that because I'm not going to lie to you, I'm on the hook here. It needs to happen. So please, people of Bristol, you've not let me down before. Yeah. Please come to that.
Milo is putting on his one-man version of the play A Chorus Line.
Correct. Newcastle 30th of July, I want to say. And then I'm going to be in Edinburgh Fringe. That's not on sale yet, but yeah, exciting stuff. It's all happening.
All right. Lots of stuff to do. Don't forget, there's a free episode. There's a bonus episode. It will be out on Thursday, and you can listen to it if you so wish for $5 cash American
if you're odd enough.
Every month. Although that may switch to £4.50 soon. Not that it will affect you. So anyway, thanks everybody, and we will see you in a few days. Bye.
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 Bye.